Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I want to speak to you guys about a question that I'm regularly asked whenever I speak about being diagnosed, and that question is why I wanted to be diagnosed. And to be fair, it's no one else's business, but I'm going to share it with you because my business is your business to an extent, because I like to make sure that the questions that are asked, you know, if they're asked in general, like, nice terms and not to be patronising or rude, I will answer them. And I think this is an important question, because some people might think, oh, I'm 65, what's the point in being diagnosed? For me, I think there's a huge point in being diagnosed regardless of your age. So I'm just going to share what it done for me, what changed, what hasn't changed. Just, yeah, I'm going to speak about my experience because that's what I do best, talking about myself. So let's just get on to today's video, but first, if you could smash me a big thumbs up down below and subscribe to my YouTube channel, I will forever be grateful. So let's get on to the video. So a lot of you guys will know a lot about me because I've been doing this for about 3 years now. So a lot of you know a lot about me and you know my backstory, but just a brief kind of description of my life. I wasn't diagnosed until I was 21 years old with ADHD, and I was diagnosed at 23 as autistic too. Yeah, I'm a double whammy. I come with two extra diagnoses. Like, come on, that's limited edition right there. That's limited edition. Yeah. So for the first 21 years of my life, I really struggled to fit in. I didn't know why I couldn't do what my peers were doing. I felt really behind in life. Like, I just struggled emotionally, socially, mentally, physically. I really struggled just fitting in. Like, there were so many aspects of my life that were affected by this unknown thing. Like, I didn't know why I couldn't do this, why I couldn't do that, why I struggled here, why I really struggled in school, why I struggled in employment. Like, there were just so many questions I had about myself that I desperately just needed answering. And when I went to college, I was kicked out of college at the age of 18, and 18 was the year that I thought to myself, what is wrong, Molly? Like, why do I still behave like this? Why am I at the age of 18 being kicked out of college for bad behaviour? Like, why? Like, why? Like, yeah. It was me who wanted the diagnosis, who wanted the help, and I wanted my questions answered. For me personally, the only way I was going to get my questions answered was by going to see a professional, a psychiatrist, a GP. Like, I needed help. I needed some type of help, and that help was going to my GP. I told them what was going on, I told them what I struggled with, like, and my biggest concerns, and they were like, crikey, I think that possibly could be ADHD, this could possibly be anxiety, but you know, we're gonna have to get it checked. So that was like a really long waiting list, 2.5 years on the NHS, and then after that I was told you're still nowhere near the top of the diagnosis assessment list, so you could have like another 3 years on top of that, and I couldn't do that. So I had to get a loan out, and I went private, and I got a diagnosis of ADHD. So the question that I always, and I mean, like, I get it quite frequently on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, I get it. When I speak about ADHD is, what's the difference between being diagnosed and not diagnosed? Like, what's changed? And it's a really good question, because it makes me think, like, really, what has changed? So much has changed. Like, I have grown as a person. I now know that it's not me. Like, it's not me. I'm not broken. So that in itself raises my self-confidence, my self-esteem. I feel like I'm able, and I have just as much potential as anybody else to do what I want to do, but things might be a bit more challenging. I might have a few more hurdles in my way, but that doesn't mean I can't do it. It just means that, you know, I might have to work just a tad bit harder. And you know, us ADHDers, we aren't afraid of some hard work. We don't shy away from, like, proving people wrong, doing what we want, like being passionate about something. And if we have a goal, we will generally do it, because we're that type of people. We are determined. The diagnosis itself isn't this cure. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't do anything apart from it made me feel like, you know, I could still do what I wanted to do, and it made me feel like I am not the problem, and I made me feel that I'm no less of a human being Like, I am just as worthy as anybody else. I have just as much potential as anybody else. And, you know, the hard thing is knowing that you have ADHD. It comes at a cost, because it's like, for me, I got to this grieving stage after being diagnosed. It didn't hit instantly. It was like a few days after the diagnosis. I was just like, well, who am I? I felt like I'd been living a lie for 21 years. I didn't know who the real Molly was. And that was a real tough period of time. I questioned if I had the right diagnosis. You know, I questioned, have I done the wrong thing by getting a diagnosis? Because now I feel so lost. I feel worse than what I did before. And it was a really tough transition from being diagnosed to, you know, not being diagnosed. It was a really, really tough transition, but I got there and I'm here now 4 years later. You know, I'm here to tell the tale. For me, just knowing that I have ADHD has been a huge kind of, it's just given me power, because I can confidently say, you know, I will have struggles, but that doesn't mean I can't get over them, I can't get through them. You know, just knowing that I don't pick to be difficult, I don't pick to do these things, I don't pick to have difficulties in relationships, I don't pick to have friendship difficulties, I don't pick to struggle with hygiene, personal care, I don't choose to do these things. And before diagnosis, I thought it was a Molly problem. I thought I lacked some brain cells because I couldn't do what everybody else was doing. But just knowing that I don't choose to do these things, it's like, basically I have no choice but to struggle with these things, because I have ADHD and I am autistic. Just knowing that gave me great, like, power within myself. It made me feel like I can be proud of who I am. It's not me. I didn't choose to do this. I didn't choose to have ADHD. I didn't choose to be autistic. It's just the life I've got, and I've been handed these cards, and whether or not I'm happy about it, I have no choice. I can't cure either. Like, I have ADHD and I'm autistic. There's literally nothing I can do about it. But just knowing that made the world of a difference to me. So when people say, like, what's the difference in being diagnosed and undiagnosed, for me, it's changed my life, and it saved my life. Because I feel like if I didn't get the help by getting a diagnosis, I strongly think that my life would be really bad, and I would have gone down a really, really dark hole, and I might not have been here today to tell the tale. You know, reckless driving, I could have got myself in some really, really seriously dangerous situations. And, you know, and you know, it's to me, it's made the world of a difference. It saved my life, and it's changed my life in ways that I could never really put into words. So when people ask me, I'm a little bit like struck for words, because I'm like, I don't really know how to explain it. It's just, all I can say is it's changed my life and it's saved my life. Yeah. I know personally I'm really privileged to have a diagnosis, and I get that thrown at me a lot of the time. And I don't see it as an insult as such, but it does, like, sometimes, like, annoy me, because I'm like, yes, I know I'm lucky to have a diagnosis, but it wasn't an easy thing. I had to put myself in debt to get the diagnosis. I'm still paying off the interest of the loan 4 years later, because I couldn't magically get this diagnosis. I wasn't privileged enough to just only wait a month. No, I had to wait 2.5 years on an ADHD NHS waiting list to still be told after 2.5 years I was nowhere near the top of that list. So yes, I'm privileged, but I'm not privileged because I had to pay to get the help. That put me in debt, which made me more stressed, more anxious, and I'm still paying off the interest loan now. So yes, I'm privileged to know I have ADHD and I'm autistic, but at the same time it comes at a huge cost, as in literally financial cost. And it's just one of those hard things. Like, I would take this debt any day, because the not knowing cost me a lot more than the financial debt I'm in now for paying for the diagnosis. So, you know, yeah, it's a tough one, but for me, I could never, there would never be enough money in the world for me to turn down if I had to getting a diagnosis, because knowing what I know now, it's so life-changing, it's changed my life, it saved my life. The money I paid for a diagnosis is nothing compared to how I feel inside about myself, if that makes sense. So I want to just say that if you're waiting for an ADHD diagnosis, hang in there, because you know, I know it's tough and the waiting list is so long, and I know not everyone is able to go private like I was, and I know that I'm privileged, I know all of that. But if you're like me and you really struggled prior to even mentioning to a doctor or getting a little bit of advice to go private to get help, like to go on the GP waiting list, you know, it's one of those things that can affect everybody differently. So diagnosis to me, you know, it was life-changing, life-saving, but to someone else it could be hard to hear, it could be hard to accept, and either of those experiences of getting the diagnosis is totally valid. So I want you to know that. I don't want you to feel like, well, I don't feel like that, so what's wrong? Because there's no right or wrong in these situations. I'm sharing my experience, and if that fits, great. If it doesn't, I want you to know that your experience is just as valid as mine. And you know, I'm always here in the comments. I try to reply to everybody. If you don't feel the same, just know that I appreciate you. I appreciate your feelings. I accept your feelings, and I totally understand. And I am just so happy that you're able to share that with me. And whether or not I can comment down below, articulate how I feel about you sharing your feelings. I just want you to know that when you share your feelings with me, just know that I honestly am so happy and, you know, privileged, because I am privileged that you're able to share that with me. Whether or not I can reply or not, you know, I want you to know that I do really honestly care, and I want you to know that your feelings are valid and your experiences are valid. Just because they might not match mine, it doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong, or I'm doing it wrong, or I'm doing it right and you're doing it right. It doesn't matter. Like, your feelings are experience, your experience and your feelings are just as valid as mine. So if you could smash me a big thumbs up down below and subscribe to my YouTube channel, I will forever be grateful. Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Yeah, bye.